Folks, now's the time set aside for two public hearings. We'll start with the first one, which is the 2019 Community Development Block Grant and Home Annual Action Plan. Mr. Whelan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. We're required to have a public hearing on the CDBG and home requirements because we were very fortunate this year. We received Cumberland County a 16.26% increase, more than $235,000, and an increase of more than 15% requires a substantial amendment of the county's action plan. So we provided you all information here previously to the commissioners. There also was the required public notice that went out in the Carlisle Sentinel, giving detailed information about one, today's public hearing, and two, a listing of the CDBG projects that are being recommended at this point, as well as the home project. So I recognize there's also a space on the agenda later on for discussion, but yes, we'd like to have this be a public hearing so that if anyone has any particular comments or suggestions about the particular recommendations that were included, we're happy to respond to those at this time.
Do any board members have any questions?
I do have one. Just I haven't seen this before, but the enhanced police patrols. Have we ever done something like that before?
Yes, so there are enhanced police patrols in a number of townships and boroughs around the county over the years, and this was one that was recommended. I have with me today Dan Robinson, who's our new community development director. So Dan, and then Alicia Riegel-Camp, who's our new compliance specialist, who've been working on this particular projects, reviewing the applications, ensuring full compliance with all of the CDBG and or home requirements as appropriate.
I think just to point out, there's no new funding requests per se on the plan. It's just enhancements of, because of these dollars coming in a good way, or more than anticipated. It doesn't always happen that way.
I guess my question is, we have quite a number of police departments, and how does one qualify for special federal funding? Is there some criteria or something?
Yep. In all honesty, Commissioner, it starts with a township or a borough responding to the RFP that goes out. We generally distribute those in mid to late July, with submissions later on in the fall, so that everything can pull together. So some townships are pretty regular in their requests for support that are all reviewed carefully.
Okay.
Board have any other questions? Staff have any questions? Anybody in the audience have any questions? Does the board have any comments? Staff have any comments? Anybody in the audience have any comments? Okay. Hearing none, this public hearing is closed. We'll move on to the second public hearing, which is the Cumberland County Emergency Solutions Grant 2019 application authorization. Mr. Neal.
Yes, sir. Thank you again for this opportunity. The county has received emergency solutions grants, quite a number of them in the past. Have been very valuable to the delivery of these types of services to homeless individuals and families and others threatened with homelessness. There is an open application period right now. Applications are due June 14th. And we're anticipating submitting an application for more than $309,000. And this would be for $85,000 for emergency shelter, essential services at the James Wilson Safe Harbor, $12,000 for homeless prevention activities, $198,880 for rapid rehousing activities, and a little bit less than $14,000 for administrative and data entry costs. And so we're requesting that be allowed to submit the application on behalf of the county, and that the As part of the requirements for the submission, it requires a public hearing as well as a resolution on behalf of the commissioners authorizing the submission.
Board members have any questions? Staff members have any questions? Anyone in the audience have any questions? Board members have any comments?
Yeah, I do, this question and or comment.
Okay.
But relative to most of the funding that we would receive as a result of this is for rapid rehousing. My question has to do with the location of those rapid rehousing efforts in the county. Where are they concentrated or how does that work?
I have with me today Jillian Yoder, who's the heads up that particular effort for us for our special needs housing. These are vouchers that can be used anywhere within the county. So, Jillian?
Yeah, they're scattered sites, working with private landlords within Cumberland County. I would say primarily Carlisle area, but we can cover the entire county with these funds.
The reason I ask that question is because I know that a lot of the programs and services are provided here in the immediate Carlisle area, but we do have a significant population, in fact, most of our population on the West Shore. So that I hope that these efforts are, concentrated countywide. You said scattered sites because, this issue with respect to folks struggling to be able to find a house, not just located here in Carlisle.
Absolutely.
Throughout the county, so that would be my only comment, is that we make sure that we serve the county as a whole.
We share your concern about that, Commissioner. One of the things that we were able to obtain is a grant from the Partnership for Better Health for landlord engagement. And so we've been using those dollars to provide incentives to landlords to start accepting vouchers, not only for rapid rehousing, but also for housing choice vouchers in other parts of the county.
Any other comments? Anyone from the audience? Okay, hearing none, the second public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 30th, 2019 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. Please stand and join me in the pledge by saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I call this meeting to order at 9:11 a.m. and this time open up the floor to public comment. Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3 and 4, and I'll call on Tammy Bender to discuss the 2019-2020 fiscal budget for agenda item 3, and agenda item 4 should be discussing the budget resolution 2019-15 regarding budget adjustments. Tammy?
Yes, Finance is requesting approval of the 2019-20 fiscal budgets. These budgets were based on estimates by the fiscal staff. Majority of them don't know their allocations yet from the state. This budget is a total revenue budget of $109,324,793, and the expenses are $109,338,615. Of the revenue, 89% of the revenue for the fiscals are coming from federal or state grants.
Anybody have any questions for Tammy?
Finance is requesting approval of 2 budget resolutions. The first one is for victim witness. It's increasing revenue and expenses by $1,400. Because of the competitive grants, they span 2 calendar years, and they didn't spend as much as they anticipated in 2018, so they're requesting an increase to the 19 budget to use the remaining grant funds that are available.
Any questions for Tammy?
There's one more resolution.
Oh, sorry.
There's a second one for victim witness. This is increasing revenue and expenses by $33,720. It's for an additional grant from PCCD that was awarded. This resolution should be approved only if you accept the grant award. It's down a little bit lower in the agenda. They go hand in hand.
Any
So as long as they fall in the same year, they fall under one resolution.
Okay.
Any other questions for Deanna?
I have to ask a question. So we've had our fiscal budget on display for, what, 20 days or something like that. Have we received any comments, any input from anybody? Has anybody gotten any calls?
No.
Okay, all right. I was just curious about that. And you don't need action on any of this until Monday? then?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, 6, and 7 will be Tim Whalen again, and I'm just asking if he has anything additional to discuss on the information he presented at the public hearings. Tim?
Thank you. We have no additional information unless you have, so we'd like, encourage the commissioners to adopt these particular pieces at your legislative meeting coming up on June 3rd. And that'll help us with the submissions of both of these, which are both due on June 14th. So it's a red letter day for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, no pressure. Thank you.
You got it, Tim.
Okay, agenda item 8 is discussion of memorandum of understanding between Cumberland County Adult Probation and Cumberland County Bar Foundation. Darby?
Good morning. We're seeking the board's approval of an agreement between adult probation and the Cumberland County Bar Association. Under the terms of the MOU, the Bar Foundation would serve as the reentry program's nonprofit. As a 501c3, the organization, the foundation can accept community donations and redistribute those donations to folks in the reentry program. In addition to lacking basic skills to be successful, many ex-offenders entering the community lack basic needs, and the donations would certainly help out with that.
Any questions for Darby?
Do we have the memorandum of understanding? Yeah. Okay, I apologize, just haven't gotten to it.
There's a lot of papers in there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Doug.
Next, move on to agenda item 9, contracts and grants.
Morning, Commissioners. Agenda items 9, Roman numeral 1A through C are existing contracts, contract extensions, or addenda with no additional cost or increase to the county. And they include the following departments: Court Administration Agreement with Gila LLC, doing business as Municipal Services Bureau. District Attorney Victim Services Grant, the VOCA 2019-2021 Non-Competitive Grant Award in the amount of $93,405. An NHIDD Agreement for Intellectual Developmental Disabilities fiscal year 2019 and 20, Geneva Worldwide. Does anybody have any questions on those? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 2, which consists of new contracts, vendor services, grants, and contracts with increases and decreases to the county. And we'll begin by calling on Melissa Smith, who's joining us VTC to discuss the agreement for the nursing home. Melissa?
Good morning, Commissioners. The two contracts that I have before you are for Celtic Hospice and Palliative Care. They're revenue contracts. Actually, we haven't had an existing contract with Celtic Hospice for the hospice care, but they've been acquired and have changed their name and federal ID number. They're doing business now as Residential Hospice of Carlisle. So the hospice contract is just that showing that change of ownership. The second one is for respite care, and they've asked us to complete this contract, and again, it's just a revenue contract with Celtic Hospice that doing business as Residential Hospice of Carlisle.
Anybody have any?
Any questions on that?
No, we have no questions. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move to Holly Sherman to discuss discovery benefits and human services. And from there, we're going to move on to Holly's item number 12 on the agenda, the discussion of the county's property and liability insurance renewal with travelers. Holly?
Good morning. The contract with Discovery Benefits, we currently have a vendor for our FSA and Kroger services for our employees. And over the years, we've seen a deterioration in customer service and the technology with that particular vendor. So in February of this year, several staff members from the HR department, in conjunction with our vendor broker USI, conducted an RFP for COBRA and flexible spending account services. And the selected or recommended vendor is Discovery Benefits. What we'll see is more customer service hours and increased level of customer service, as well as a decrease in the annual fee of about $1,500 from the current vendor. Any questions?
Who's the previous vendor?
WageWorks.
Okay.
Any questions on that? And then next is the recommendation for the insurance renewal, the July 1st, 2019 insurance renewal. It is the recommendation of staff that we renew with Travelers for a renewal increase of 9.55% for this particular plan year. I've shared a couple of pieces of information with commissioners. I've answered some questions. I don't know if there's any additional questions that you want me to answer today and or prior to Monday's meeting.
I provided my questions in the email. My concern is the premium collected versus the claims paid is a ratio of about 50% over the last 3 years. That just concerns me. I know you're closer to this line of insurance than I certainly am, but that just raises a red flag for me.
So what I will say is that, we did have some high premium years, 2012 and 2015. In talking to our our broker, Brian Warner with Christian Baker, that, at that time, Travelers could have made the choice to leave us then, but they stuck through us, and our overall increases over the 5-year period have only netted in about a 2.5% increase over 4 years. So I think, unfortunately, as you know, with insurance, Vince, it's not just a 1-year snapshot, it's an overall, but I understand your concern with premium. But this is we're not self-insured here, so we do have administrative and attorney fees that are associated with that, not just pure claims on our part.
How long is this commitment?
It's a 1-year commitment.
I'm sure we'll continue to monitor.
Correct. So we do typically market our property and liability every 3 years. So that next year would be the 3rd year that we would go to market, more than likely.
This went out to bid in 2017, right?
We did a full market in
Because
2017.
they dropped the rate significantly.
I believe in 2017 we did have a slight increase. Sorry.
There was a year they dropped the rate.
That was last year, 2018, and if you recall, we had a direct competition between Travelers and P Corp, which is a totally different funding model than what we are looking at here. So it's not really apples to apples,
There's a lot
that's
of
apples
fat
to
there, I
oranges.
think. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Any additional questions?
Thank you, Holly. Next, we'll move to Mark Adams, who will discuss the CenturyLink agreement for IMTO. Mark?
Good morning, Commissioner. This is our annual internet connection renewal. So the price actually did drop down $516 this year, coming to a total of $13,860. This is a dedicated fiber link for our internet connection with guaranteed uptimes and full duplex speed at 50 megabits per second, both up and down. So it also includes some static IP addresses, which we need to host websites and things like that and communicate with state and other agencies, including our remote facilities as far as like DG houses, coroner's office, and those type of things that come through that connection.
So I'll assume from your message here that you're satisfied with the quality of those services.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
I do have a question, Mark. So what other alternatives would we have other than CenturyLink?
Well, we also have a secondary internet connection through Comcast. So in the event that there is an issue with CenturyLink, then we fail over to the Comcast. We do use Comcast services at the same time. So we're actually doing 2 different internet connections, but the Comcast is just your general business class service for a few $100s a month, which you would normally expect from like a smaller shop. So we do utilize 2 different levels, similar to 911, where they have 2 different vendors with 2 different internet connections to help with redundancy and failover and produce a better uptime over the
I guess my question goes back to, so I understand this to a larger extent. Who can provide the same service that CenturyLink is providing us other than CenturyLink?
There's a couple different ones. We did go out to bid a couple years ago, and for the company agreement that we have with Central for the last bid, we were able to renew this on a 1-year extension. So I anticipate this going out to bid next year, and then we'd have some more competitive rates. We did go out to bid 3 years ago, I believe it was, and CenturyLink was really the best, and best price and best service.
Who are some of the other?
Comcast is obviously the next one. There's one called Level 3, which I think CenturyLink is in the middle of purchasing. Last I knew, they were working on a merger between the two of them. Obviously, there were lots of others. We had another bid a couple years ago from a company down in, I think, Alabama or somewhere in the South States, which we weren't comfortable with their service, so we kind of ruled them out just from a support perspective. Verizon could be another one as far as their internet.
Well, just like we had a conversation here, and I think what Vince was getting at relative to the insurances, we should open this up on a periodic basis. to make
We
sure
do.
Make sure we're getting the best bang for the taxpayers in terms of the cost. So I have some questions relative to the insurance now as well, so. But
This is just a
anyway,
one-year agreement, and so we can certainly put it out to bid next year. Yes.
Yeah, but some of these other options that are emerging, fixed wireless, and you hear about 5G and all this stuff, are those things that are just far enough down the road that we don't.
Yeah, but, I mean, this is a dedicated fiber line right to the building. It's probably the best quality of service we're going to get. I think we all know that we occasionally have some internet outages and downtime and things like that already. For me to go to something like a 5G or something, it's really not proven and tested in the industry yet. So,
Not yet,
yeah. In fact, I think it was one of the carriers, AT&T, were the first to come out with 5G, but yet the speeds were not even as fast as 4G. So right there, it throws a red flag to me as far as going to that
I
technology.
know that something like Commonwealth's doing a build out of fixed wireless in here. I didn't know if that was an option for us, maybe for redundancy, for backup. There's gonna be more options going forward. At some point, so this makes sense.
We can certainly review different options and potentially do it out the bid next year. It'd be great. Sure.
Next up, call Kirk Stoner, who's joining us video teleconferencing to discuss the HRG agreement as well as item 11 on your agenda. Sure.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. First item is supplement C to the HRG's engineering agreement for Cumberland Bridge. We need to add about $40,000 worth of services to do a seismic analysis that's required by PennDOT after their foundation review of the initial bridge plans.
Any questions for Kirk?
No. Okay. Second piece then, item the weight posting reduction on Cumberland Bridge. We're replacing it because they had problems, and we have to reduce the weight posting from 10 times to 5 times, and we discussed this earlier when we requested authorization to advertise.
Kurt, Conkles will be replaced within 2 years.
Yeah, actually, Vince, the schedule on that, our hope is to advertise that project this fall in November. I'm working with HRG to see if we can accelerate that a little bit. Our issue out there is it is a native trout stream, so we have really varying windows we can actually get into creek work because of restrictions that are placed on the fishery from fishing overfish.
Commissioner, just note that Kirk is asking for action requested on this agenda item.
The motion to approve ordinance number 2019-3.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Next, Sue Carball will discuss the 36 agreements for MHIDD. Sue?
So I guess when I'm done here, you guys are gonna be pretty much done too.
Well, you were at least 2/3 of the packet.
I believe so.
At least.
So the first group for early intervention are for next fiscal year. And they are all new contracts. They are with state and federal dollars that will be paid for. They're all renewals for all these providers listed. What we did is we started a new fiscal year contract where each provider is projected to end this fiscal year. So, if you want me to go through all of them, is that, no?
Unless there's
No.
something really.
Now, I don't see anything, you know, some of them are an increase, some of them are a decrease, depending on the number of children they're serving at this point in time. But there's nothing out of the ordinary here. So that's the early intervention group. So if we move on down to the mental health, whoops, sorry, all these papers today. So the mental health contract for the redevelopment authority is a memo of understanding regarding funding provided through the mental health contract. Apparently, this was required by the auditors of the redevelopment authority. There's no money attached to that. It's just a memo of understanding. So,
Yeah. Page 300.
find that. Okay, so then we move on to mental health fiscal year 1920. So for next fiscal year, the contract with Barrick and Shear replaces our contract with Rob O'Brien for our solicitor. It's a new contract, but it's the same dollars. We're just changing the provider. And then we have care options. It is replacing our contract with Alert Pharmacy for outpatient pharmacy services. This is a decrease of $12,500, and it is a new contract for care options. And then for the intellectual development and disability contracts, they are all addendums for this fiscal year. Again, they are state and federal dollars. We are amending Harrisburg Home Health Holdings, doing business as Angels on Call, increasing them $16,742 because of additional services they are doing. Living Unlimited is an increase of $285 for additional services. Messiah Lifeways is an increase of $1,578 for additional services. And the Cornerstone Agency of PA is an increase of $1,354 for additional services. Any questions?
I did have one question going back to the EI contrast. I just noticed that building blocks therapy has a very substantial decrease. The contract was 89.
Let me see
It's
what's.
near the beginning. It was previous contract was 89,000 and it went down by 29,400. And they do outpatient physical speech therapies.
Yes.
Which obviously is great.
I think they lost some therapists, and so we had to move some of their children to some other agencies and other therapists.
So we picked up elsewhere.
Yes,
Okay.
we have some new ones that
Okay.
picked up what they weren't able to do.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
Next, I'll call Claudia Garner, who's joining us via teleconferencing to discuss the Covacor agreement and agenda item number 10. Claudia?
All right, good morning, everyone. Public Safety is seeking your approval to engage in a purchase contract with COVA Corporation for an audio log recorder upgrade. We came before you at the last meeting with the request to proceed with this capital project. Nothing has changed since then. It is $16,750.80, and that is to upgrade the operating system on the recorder that records all of the radio and telephone traffic for the 911 center. This will be done by the vendor, and IMTO has reviewed all the options and agrees that this is the best solution for us at this time. Any questions on that one?
We discussed that previously.
All good on that?
Good.
Okay, all right, good. All right, and also, Public Safety is pleased to request your approval to receive sponsorship money for the LEPC Sarah Summit to be held in October. We have two agencies. The first is Service First from Harrisburg. They are a gold level sponsor, donating $1,000 toward the conference. And the second is Classic Dry Cleaners of Carlisle, a bronze sponsor for $265.
Any questions? Thank you, Claudia.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
You too.
We do.
Next one down to agenda item 13, discussion of capital project request. We begin with Bethany discussing election machine request. Bethany.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you know, all counties have been required by the governor to purchase new voting systems by April of 2020. While this is something we've been projecting for a few years that we would be replacing at some point, and this timing would not be my choice of timing, I don't think we have an option. We will be receiving some leftover HAVA funds, and there is a potential that if this budget gets approved, there is $15 million for counties to use to purchase voting machines. But obviously, I think we are going to need to put some of this bill as well. So that's why I'm here today.
Any questions for Bethany?
No, we're going to have a board of elections meeting June 4, next week, I guess.
Next Tuesday.
And we're going to be looking at different options. And it is something that we need to move forward on. Like I think Bethany said, that we don't really have a choice here. But up till now, and we'll wait and see what the legislature does, it is an unfunded mandate. A pretty significant unfunded mandate. So in any event, there was legislation, as you were passed the Senate, the Senate, that would have delayed this, but it doesn't appear as though that's moving through the House and/or that it would have the support of the governor. So, because of the Jill Stein presidential campaign filing a lawsuit, we're in this predicament. Whereas we've said on many occasions that there's no way that our voting machines here in Cumberland County could ever be hacked because they're never connected to the internet. And neither is the server that collects everything. It's never connected to the internet. But we're going to spend here in Cumberland County up to $5 million to provide for a paper backup. And I think it's a largely unnecessary expense at this time. So it is what it is, and we're going to do what we have to do. But I, for one, am not happy. If the state wants us to do this, if the state, is requiring us to do this, then they should provide the funding for it. Bottom line. So.
Anthony, how much longer will our current machines last? Really?
We wanted to get through 2020 with them and then start the process of looking in our own time and however long that would take. But I would say another 3 to 5 years easy.
So what if we just keep our machines? Are they going to tell us, our citizens, they can't vote?
The state has to certify all the systems used in Pennsylvania so they can easily decertify our current system, and then we would not be able to use it.
So come election day, people wanted to vote, we'd have to say no, you can't vote.
if we didn't have a new system in place.
You think that would really fly? No.
Yeah.
I don't mean to pick on you.
No.
Yeah, I think this is nonsense.
This is what we truly can't fight City Hall.
Yes. Well, there's this threat that they're, going to decertify everybody, all the
Right.
equipment, the current equipment. I too would find it hard to believe that the state would say, okay, citizens of Cumberland County, you can't vote in a presidential election here, because you don't have any machines.
You have to stay in office.
No comment.
I'll tell you, we were good with the old mechanical machines. We should return to those. Didn't have any hacking with those either.
Bethany, how many variety machines are we on siege in for?
4 different types. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Beth. Next, we'll move on to Brad King, who's joining us, BCC, to discuss the security system upgrades and additions for CNRC. Brad?
Good morning, Commissioner. We'd like approval to move ahead with the capital project to update our security system. The existing server that we have that controls our cameras and badge accessing system here is literally living on life support. We've had numerous issues the past several months, the locking up, freezing up, causing us to have to reboot the server. Sometimes I can do it, sometimes I have to call Hilton's, the vendor, to do it. So this is a need, this was an emergency need that we did not expect. In my original budget for 2019, I budgeted $10,000 to upgrade the system with some additional cameras, monitoring for our Heritage Harbor Dementia Unit, which currently has no video recording. So that's part of this project too. We're hoping it all together. We have some preliminary numbers around 16,000. We're actually asking for approval for 25, basically because there's some things back and forth work at it. Make sure that we have the system integrated with the county in the proper way. So we'd like to move ahead with that. Is there any questions?
No.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you,
You
Brad.
too. Next, we'll move on to agenda item 14, and I'll call on Commissioner Hartzler to discuss the Housing Authority Board reappointment, and this appointment has expired on May 25th. Jim?
Thanks, Amy. So, per the advice of our solicitor, that we need to wait until a vacancy actually exists in the Housing Authority Board. The vacancy does now exist. And so, we could wait until Monday, but I would be happy to make a motion today to my colleagues in agreement to reappoint Penny Palmer to a new term, a 5-year term on the Housing Authority Board. Penny is a regular attendee. She's one of our consumer representatives on the Housing Authority, and I would respectfully request that we reappoint her, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second as long as it's okay with Mr. Berman. It's acceptable. You may proceed.
We have that clear. A motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we'll move on to the Commissioners' Liaison Reports, beginning with Commissioner Cleveland.
Yeah, just one, the library board did not meet due to the fact that they're moving, so that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hartzler.
Okay, well, I'm going to use up Vince's time now, because
I have a fortnight.
my boards and commissions were pretty active here the past couple of weeks. So the county's Housing and Redevelopment Authority boards met Thursday, May 16. A $1.4 million public housing budget was approved for the upcoming fiscal year starting July 1. The Housing Authority Board also formally accepted and approved the recent independent audit of its operations, which found no deficiencies. With the support of Michael Baker International, work continues on the development as required by the federal government of a new 5-year consolidated plan aimed at addressing housing needs throughout Cumberland County. The plan for the borough of Carlisle is expected to be completed in the near future, with the full county plan scheduled to be approved this fall. The authority continues to wait on a final decision by Hamden Township on whether the township will participate in the county's designation as an urban county for the purposes of attaining full funding from the federal government for community development block grants in our county. I understand that the Township Board of Commissioners may be discussing this matter at their public meeting this evening. The number of families receiving assistance with the payment of their rents through the federally funded Housing Choice Voucher Program continues to inch up, with 1,234 families receiving the assistance in our county, but for lack of adequate funding, 866 otherwise eligible applicants from within Cumberland County are on a wait list. The county's Aging Advisory Board met Friday, May 17. There was a discussion and compliments about the exceptional care provided by our Claremont Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. An invitation has been extended to our new administrator at Claremont to attend, as his schedule permits, future meetings of the Aging Advisory Board. The Office of Aging is working in concert with the District Attorney's Office on the creation of an elder abuse task force. And as I understand it, there has been an assistant DA that's been assigned to investigate cases of elder abuse in our county. And Temple University will be providing training for law enforcement in dealing with cases of abuse of our senior citizens. As our county's older adult population continues to grow, the number of requests for protective services continues to escalate. In April alone, there were 89 requests for protective services. I was happy to learn that as our initiative for more intergenerational programming at our libraries continues, first graders from the West Shore School District have been visiting the West Shore Senior Citizen Center on a weekly basis to practice their reading skills and get to know our older adults in the area. The Capital Region Council of Governments met Monday evening, May 20. There was a presentation by PennDOT District 8's Chris Darda, the second in command, if you will, at PennDOT District 8, on the many road projects underway or contemplated throughout the region. It was good to hear that PennDOT is moving forward with planning for improvements for Interstate 81, so that when and if sufficient funding becomes available, some of the planning and engineering work will have already been completed. I heard a new stat during Chris's presentation that's worth repeating, but as we're all fully aware, it doesn't really come as any surprise to us. And that bit of information is this: since I-81 was originally built, the volume of truck traffic has increased in our county and the region by 550%. 550%. Some additional detail that he passed along focused on the federal government's ongoing failure to address the absolute need for new revenues to fund critically needed improvements to our nation's interstate highway system. The last time the federal government acted to increase revenues for road and highway improvements was in 1993, now more than a quarter of a century ago. The federal gasoline tax stands at 18.4 cents a gallon. And while increasing the federal tax on gasoline is not necessarily the best option, at 18.4 cents a gallon has a buying power today of only 5 cents as a result of inflation. And we've seen inflation since that 1993 increase of 73%. As I indicated on many occasions, the longer Congress and our president twiddle their thumbs and do nothing on this critical issue, the more it will cost our children and their children. Our interstate highway system, including I-81 in our county, needs to be rebuilt and expanded to meet the capacity demands of today and tomorrow. Capital Region Council of Governments is gearing up for its annual auction of surplus municipal equipment on July 17, and this year's auction will take place at Good Hope Middle School. The Cumberland County Conservation District Board met Tuesday evening of this week. I was pleased to be joined by my commissioner colleagues in advance of that meeting for the dedication of a flowering dogwood that's been planted in a plaque at our Ritter office location in memory of our departed friend Wilbur Wolf, who served for 30 years as a member of the county's Conservation District Board and nearly a quarter century as its chairman. On hand were members of Wilbur's family, the Conservation District Board, and the entire staff of the Conservation District. And it was a fitting tribute to a man who gave so much of himself in service to our county over so many years. At the Conservation District's business meeting, the board selected Zane Garber of Rock Solid Dairy Farm in Southampton Township to be the recipient of the 2019 Farmer of the Year Award. Mr. Garber farms about 463 acres and has about 330 dairy cows, and is recognized for his numerous efforts to institute best management practices to prevent stormwater runoff and the pollution of our waterways. Gross sales from the district's tree seedling sale totaled $19,329.10. A total of 8,000 seedlings were sold this year, an increase of about 1,000 over last year. The Conservation District approved its own letter of support of Silver Spring Township's application to the Commonwealth Financing Authority for the Watershed Restoration and Protection Program grant for the Vincent D. Filippo Nature Preserve Project.
Yes.
There was a full report on this year's very successful high school envirothon competition held at Kings Gap. Overall, the Hellbenders team from Cumberland Valley came in number 1. The Panda Posse team from Camp Hill came in number 2. The Bluebirds team from Cumberland Valley came in number 3. As far as I'm concerned, all of the participants from all of our high schools are winners, and if you'll permit me a little parochial pride from my hometown, I was glad to see that the Green Tea team from East Pennsboro came in first in the category of current issues. The board, meanwhile, also approved 4 scholarships of $250 each for college-bound high school seniors who participated in the envirothon. And finally, I was pleased last evening to attend, along with Commissioner Eichelberger, the Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation's real estate development event. I know that Vince had a conflict and Gary had to leave a little bit early for another commitment, but it was good to learn more about the many development projects that are underway throughout our county and have come to fruition in our county. And there's no doubt in my mind, judging by the turnout last night and by what we see all around us, that Cumberland County remains a happy place and a great place to live, work, raise a family, and start or grow a business. And by the way, while we need to do some additional research, Laura Poneff told me last night that the recent article that suggested that Cumberland County is no longer the fastest growing county in the state of Pennsylvania is inaccurate. So we need to take a closer look at that. But no matter, we know we're growing at a fast pace because Cumberland County has much to offer by way of its many job opportunities, its great school districts, and its overall quality. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernstein.
Okay, just briefly, let's see, Justin sent me an update on some of the recycling matters, so I'll refer to my notes here on that. The recycling center numbers are a bit down from last spring, but this is only the second spring we've had. Of course, first year we chalked some of that pent-up demand, and the numbers are not off by that much, so still overall very pleased that the public makes excellent use of the facility that we're offering. And very encouraged by the continued usage. We suspect those numbers are going to trend upward as the weather becomes more consistent as well. So I can share the daily averages with you in writing if you like afterwards. The household hazardous waste, of course, we have the event coming up, and as of this morning, Judd said there's 103 people signed up for the Thursday, July 18. 26 people are signed up for Saturday, the 17th, August 17th, rather. And 5 people signed up for the Thursday, September 19th. Obviously, as those get closer, we'll see those numbers trend upward. And he's working with Samantha to put out the requisite communications so that we're ensuring we're getting in front of prospective users there. And we'll know those numbers as the events get closer. So looking good on that front. Yard waste, recycling equipment. The steering committee met. They will meet on June 12th, and the committee's been working on revising the agreement over the past several meetings. We have some things some gaps we need to close in that, make sure we've got adequate coverage for equipment maintenance and repair, and the responsibility for equipment servicing and repair. Also, the draft of that will be done at that meeting, and the authority will review it on June 17, and then it will come before us for final approval. Let's see. Also, they're continuing to finalize their plans regarding the new grinder requirements. As you know, that's become a pretty expensive investment, and they're working on the best ways to keep that equipment modern and at the same time affordable. So more on that coming forward. That is an important piece of our recycling effort. The only other things I have, Planning Commission meets next week, so I have nothing right there that has already come before us. I was unable to attend the MHID meeting because of a conflict, but Vince.
Yes, I'm sorry. I did attend that, and the video that they wanted to show, they could not locate.
Yeah.
Give it a date other than that, because that's some informal discussion.
I appreciate you attending that, and you did bring me the information packet, so I'll go through that and see if there's anything I can share just through an email that may be worthwhile. We've got very important things going on there, of course. So, also I wanted to mention, I was driving to work today, and I live right around the corner from the elementary school, and I saw that the fire, I'm not sure which fire company in Mechanics, where we have 2, was carrying it out, but they had apparatus in the playground, they had the kids around, they were teaching some of them, they were doing the blanket rescue thing, place for to get some enthusiastic participation. And so I know we've had that discussion that are we doing enough getting in schools and making fire service appealing to people at a young, very young age. Well, somebody's doing it, so that was very encouraging to see that. I hope that's happening elsewhere, but I wanted to mention to you, I saw it just on my way in this morning. Only other item I wanted to mention is we did take final action last week on the appointment of the CEO for the Economic Development Corporation, Jamie Keener, and apparently no announcement has gone out on that. As you know, we don't get a person here anymore, so I've asked Samantha to help us finalize an announcement on that and get that out. That's a big deal. Yeah. It's a shame we didn't have it out for last night's event that you and I were at, because they had about 100 attendees from the business development community.
Gary, are you guys aware there is an event tonight, this afternoon?
No.
It's a multi-chamber mixer over at what was the sports emporium at 4 o'clock. Starts at 4.
I missed that one, so
I was reminded late last night that they already speakers and gone to this thing.
all right.
So I did find it on our email.
You did find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's from 4 to 7 at the sports emporium.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you issued that reminder, because I didn't remember seeing that at all. But obviously, if any of us can attend or all of us can attend, it's worthwhile to see the support there. But regardless, I asked Samantha, taking on the liberty of asking Samantha if we can push out that announcement pretty quickly. I think we've had a very long storied process of getting the this election. We're really happy with the result, and we're proud of both the work that went into it and the result. And really pushing that message out is beneficial to a lot of folks. So hopefully we'll have something released on that today. And I think the business, I mentioned something to Jason Scott from the Business Journal last night, and I think he's doing something on it today. So that's definitely a plus to bring that process to full fruition and let Jamie get started. So he'll be beginning on June 10th. I see no reason to wait until June 10th for an announcement. So, that's everything I have.
I just want to make one comment. I think that, yes, it's taken a long time to reach the point of appointing a new CEO at Katie, but in the meantime, I think Katie and the staff have done a wonderful job in terms of all the different events and all that's going on. And if it's any indication, is the things that I've attended, and I think that Vince and Gary and I have attended, we see an awful lot of interest and activity from our business community, and it really makes you, and I did a little wrap up last night, but I mean, bottom line is we have a lot going on, a lot of good things happening here in Cumberland County. They touched on last evening during the panel, the panelists that were there, they touched on some of the challenges we face too, housing, our labor market. And we're on top of that, with our workforce development effort and so forth that we're doing in cooperation with the school districts. So anyway, I feel really good about Katie and all it's been able to do to help us, promote responsible economic development throughout the county. The only other thing I want to comment on is, I know Samantha's not here, but Penn's here, but we got excellent coverage from what I could tell, reading all the different media this morning on our new text to 911 service. And it was even in the print edition of Patriot News today, so.
The what?
The Patriot News. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I still am a subscriber, I get it 3 days a week, I get an actual print edition of the newspaper.
You're the
one.
Does it get on a bicycle still further out of the yard?
No, I haven't. He sticks it under the mailbox. Anyway, no, I was in the Sentinel, was in the Patriot. I heard it on the radio yesterday when I went home. So we got good coverage on the institution of text to 911, which I'm glad it's here. I mean, it's a great service, especially when you consider if somebody's breaking into your house and you don't want to tell them where you are. Now you can text to 911 if you got a burglary, or in cases of domestic violence or domestic abuse when you don't want to be talking necessarily out loud. So we now have text to 911 available to help our citizens in case of emergencies if they can't talk. So it's kind of, I think that I like that. We got a video that I think is hopefully up on our website. If you can't talk, text to 911. So anyway, I thought we got good coverage on this institution. And, I just want to say that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Rensler. I would like to report that an executive session was held on the following day, May 22nd, 2019, at 10:30 a.m. regarding personnel issues. I would also like to request an executive session to be held directly after this meeting regarding personnel issues. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board today?